Welcome to another episode of Too Late with Dave. I'm here with Pattie Boyd, and Freddie, the dog, is just out of shot somewhere, but you might hear him.
He's lying down now.
Oh, he's lying down. Okay, because you might walk around a little bit. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming along.
Okay, Dave.
So this is a sort of occasional, unscripted talk between myself and photographers about photography, life in general, but mainly photography.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of years ago, I think, we did this wonderful book together, Pattie Boyd, My Life in Pictures, which was a mix of pictures of you and pictures by you. So I think you're the first person we've had on that as model and photographer. It's mostly been just photographers. How did you get into becoming a photographer rather than being a model?
Well, while I was modelling, it occurred to me that I would like to know what the photographers are looking at and how they compose a picture. And so I saved up money, bought a Pentax, and then whatever studio I went to, and I was working quite a lot, I would take my camera and hopefully the photographer would give me, some helpful advice, or the assistants, so that I gradually learned and kept taking photographs of everything. I had some girlfriends who were models and some were actresses, so I could practice on them.
And did you find it helped you, like when you were modelling, if you knew more about what the photographer was doing?
I realised that I was working within a frame. And I think it helped me.
And I remember you saying at one point that, often the photographer wouldn't really give you any direction. They'd stand you where you were standing and wearing what you were wearing and tell you to do something or to move.
I think there are some photographers who have no idea of directing their model or their person that they're shooting. And so left to your own device, you don't really know what to do. But gradually with time, after a lot of modelling, I did know what to do.
And here, I think we have this is, if not your first, one of your very early
This is the
pictures.
very first photograph taken of me by Anthony Norris. And this was before I had an agent.
And I mean, do you remember it? Like, was it exciting?
It was so exciting because a woman approached me, and she worked for a magazine in what's the name of that road where the anyway, she asked me if I would like to be a model and come to her offices, and she had a studio in the office or behind her offices, and Anthony Norris was on hand, so he took some photos of me, and I thought this was great fun. Of course it was fun. He kept saying, "Oh, that's lovely, you're looking great," and I thought, this is nice, purring time. And then they had the photographs printed and took them to who would become my agent.
And so, like here, for example, was there any direction, or did you feel comfortable in front of the camera at first?
No, until he started to tell me what to do. Because, it's quite an unnatural situation to start posing for an inanimate object, a camera. So you need some help from the photographer. And
so if there's no interaction or no direction,
it's very difficult. Very difficult.
And also, so at this time, you were, in this picture, you see the John French picture of you and all the models of the day. There's quite a range of age groups going on there. Was modelling, was it considered a serious profession at the time?
No, not really. It was sort of, not really. I think people thought of models as catwalk models for fashion shows, mainly in Paris. Or some models just worked in houses, in fashion houses, where they would just walk around in whatever the clothes were. The small group of clients would be around them, and then they could show them the clothes.
Yeah, I think we have some pictures in the book of that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what was this? So John French was quite a big deal.
John French was really a big deal, and I don't know whose idea it was to photograph all these models. I mean, an awful lot of them were very famous in the 50s. And there's Barbara Golan whose name I knew but didn't know her, sitting with a black fur hat on, and I think to the left of the picture. She, was very famous in her day, and sitting next to her was a girl who a little bit older than me, Celia Hammond, who I always thought was just gorgeous. I thought she was a fabulous looking girl. And anyway, John French seated us all, told us where to sit, and then he knew where he was going to sit. And before he sat down, he said to his assistant, like a conductor, 1, 2, 3, now. And the assistant then took the photograph.
Amazing. And was that quite common then, that the photographer would direct things rather than, wasn't necessarily pushing the button?
No, that's the first time I'd ever seen or come across the photographer not taking the picture himself.
And so this is like at the start of your career. This picture, like Nancy Sandys Walker, her son has just unearthed a whole batch. I don't know if you've seen them. Last week they went up on Mary Evans' picture library.
No.
So there's lots of you, and we got 4 in the book, but that's all he'd found at the time.
Yeah.
And so Nancy had worked for Norman Parkinson as an assistant, and then went out on her own. But there's a lot of pictures of you just been
Really?
put up. Yeah, yeah.
God, I'd love to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
that.
no, there's great, a whole range. And this one, is, and the detail, it's harder to tell on here, but the detail in your eye is quite incredible. I mean, it's just, I don't know, something about film and the way she used the light, but it really...
Yeah. Well, I love film. I think the film is far more emotive than digital. Of course, it's made up of dots, isn't it? And I think it's lovely. It's sort of soft, but it's also very clear and clean.
And Freddie is snoring away there, so
Yeah.
that's
Do you
neither
mind
of
him
us.
snoring?
I don't mind.
No.
You know, just
I wonder what he dreams of.
he's probably fed up listening to me again. The same. But here, this is your modelling card, which I quite like the fact that somebody, perhaps you, has changed your height. And it says that you specialise in hands.
Yes, because I had, and maybe they are still quite nice hands. They're quite long fingers. And so I did a few hand jobs. I mean, that sounds
You
so
can't say
naughty.
that. Yeah, not with our listeners, yeah. But was that a thing? Because I know we've talked before, like when we were putting the book together, about the lack of competition between the models at the time. That if they wanted someone that looked like you, they got you. If they wanted someone that looked like Twiggy, they called Twiggy. But would you get would the specialty, like photographing your hands, would that be more for catalogue work or?
Yeah, advertising. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you recognise your hands in a picture?
No.
Would you be holding like a bottle of shampoo or something?
I don't know. I mean, I can't remember. I can't remember what jobs I did.
There's probably a fan page out there for that sort of thing. Yeah. But so you were kind of you were fairly independent at this point. You were sort of going out and seeing lots of photographers. I remember seeing an entry in your diary, and there was always, you had meetings here all over town. Sometimes several shoots a day.
Yeah.
It was quite.
It was quite full on. I was working quite a lot every week, sometimes every day, not always, but quite often twice a day.
And would you know, how far in advance would you know? Like, were you sort of booked up, or would you get a call today saying, come somewhere tonight or tomorrow?
No, it would always be a couple of days ahead.
And you were also usually expected to bring your own accessories and do your own hair and makeup?
Yeah, you see, those were the good old days when we had to bring our own accessories, hair pieces, wigs, shoes. And they were so funny. They'd say, dark and light court shoes. So they were frightfully sort of old-fashioned. And jewellery, all sorts of jewellery, and whatever else they needed for the shoot.
And
also, we would do our own makeup.
yeah.
So I'd have to take my makeup too.
And would you have to do a whole different range of styles or looks?
No, that they left me to my own devices.
And so was that less important, like for the photographer or whoever was commissioning it, was it more about the
toes?
outfit? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so in a way you were kind of anonymous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a mannequin.
And did you notice a point where you were in demand, more than, just for the outfit? So in here we have a page from one of your scrapbooks, which shows quite a few different looks there.
Yes.
I mean, this was all in a short space of time. I mean, there's kind of hundreds of shoots.
Yeah.
And what was it like seeing your work in print?
Well, to begin with, it was very exciting. The most exciting was when I got a cover of Vogue, photograph taken by Barry Whitaker. That was the most exciting, really was. I was a big deal to be on Vogue.
And did things change for you with that? Like, as far as the type of work you've got, are you taken more seriously if you make it onto Vogue?
Yes, yeah, that. And then when I started seeing George, the press were full of that. And so, of course, a lot of magazines thought, oh, we can get her to do this or that. And so I got quite a lot more jobs because of George, I think. But I was working quite hard before we met.
Yeah. And when we've got the picture, I think this is the day you met George. This is taken by David Hearn, wonderful photographer, who was doing stills for A Hard Day's Night.
Yes.
So when you got the call for the audition, at first you didn't realise... So you'd worked with the director before?
I'd worked with the director before, and when I went for the audition, I thought that it was for a crisp commercial, because I'd done two others with him. So I went away thinking that's what he does, that's all he does for me. And then I was quite surprised when my agent phoned in the afternoon and said I'd got a part in the Beatles film. I thought she'd made a mistake, you see, because I didn't remember going for an interview. In my mind, I'm still doing crisps.
Yeah.
And she said, no. And I panicked and I said, listen, I'm not cut out to be an actress. I'm not an actress. I don't know if I could do this. And she said, yes, you could. You're going to dress up as a schoolgirl and you only have one word to say and that's it. 1 day shoot. And I thought, it doesn't sound too bad. I can do this. Then she said, don't tell anyone.
Ah, that must have been tough.
It was really tough. Then I had to tell, who did I tell? Bailey. He said, well, listen, you've got to listen to all their music. So he was quite on the ball.
And so you did this 1 day.
Yeah.
And then there was a callback.
Yeah, you see, that one day, at the end of that day, George asked me out. And I said I was going to see my boyfriend, but would he like to come along too? Of course, he said no. And, I don't think we would have ever seen each other again. No mobile phones in those days. I didn't think to ask for his number. He didn't ask for mine. And whether Dick Lester was playing Cupid, I don't know. Still don't know. But he might have been. And then the girls were called back to Twickenham Studios to do a press shot with us standing behind one of the Beatles. And George said to me, how's your boyfriend? And I had to admit I didn't have one.
Fantastic.
That was it. That was it.
And so, being in the film, how did you feel about acting? Did you get the bug?
No. Excruciating to see that bit of, me in the film.
Still,
I think, oh my God, I knew I couldn't act, and here's the proof.
Do you know what camera this is?
Nikon. I was mad about Nikons. I did start off with a Pentax, as I told you, and then I progressed to Nikons. And I've always had Nikons. And then I bought a Hasselblad.
And at this point, so what was your main sort of subject? Were you taking pictures? Did you always have a camera with you?
Yeah, and if I didn't, I would see something that I wanted to photograph, and it would stay in my mind how annoying that I didn't have my camera. Anyway, I had it most of the time with me. So I photographed friends, and whoever I was hanging out with. Quite often it was George, so I got lots of shots of George, and whoever I was with.
And now, here's one of your most famous pictures. Now, so in here, you're both the subject and the photographer. But you weren't overly pleased with this at the time when you saw it.
No, you see, I just thought I'm so happy. I was worried about the roses. So happy they're all out and they look glorious. And so I set up my tripod and George was hanging around the swimming pool. And I said, come, just stand, here. So we have something in front of the roses. I thought it'd be a nice composition. And I put it on timer, and it seemed to take ages to click. And obviously George, bored by now, can't be bothered to look in the camera, and he's looking away. I like to think he's got a song going on in his head, thinking of something. I think I'm looking a little nervous. When is this going to happen? Now, see, I took this just for the roses and for us. If I'd known all these years later, 40 years later, that we would be looking at it now, I would have done something with my hair and that stupid top I'm wearing. I would have just styled it.
But do you think it would have come out the same?
Probably not. It's so casual here, you see, isn't it?
Yeah. But also, it's quite timeless. And also, photographically, everything works in it.
Yes.
I think him looking away kind of...
I think it rather gives it a bit of a mysterious look. And you look so beautiful. You might not say yes, Dave.
I know.
Being a chap.
No.
Or maybe you can see it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Very handsome.
Yeah, you did good. Another picture of yours. I love this picture, but there's a bit of a story behind this.
Yeah, when I was still learning about photography, I would want to hang out with any photographer that would allow me. One of them being Charlie Rough. He lived in Cornwall, so I didn't know, I wasn't doing anything. I said, Charlie, can I drive down and come see you? A few lessons would be lovely by the sea. And he lived in Penzance. So I drove all the way down to Cornwall and arrived at his studio. And he said, you're late, where have you been? I said, Charlie, I've driven all the way from London. Anyway, he said, come on, we're all going. And he had a pack of people, including a model, 2 models, a boy and a girl. And he wanted to photograph them in front of crashing waves.
So was this like a class he was giving, or was it just taking pictures?
Yes.
Yeah.
For calendars, I think. So while he was doing that, his girlfriend, Fiona, said to me, would you like to take photos of me? And I said, yes, I'd love to, darling. Maybe you could just sit on that rock. And I was putting film in my camera, and before I knew what had happened, she'd taken all her clothes off and just sat on the rock that I liked. And I said, just whoosh your hair back like that. And as she did it, a wave came in and hit a rock behind her. So it looks as if she's spouting water. And, look how lovely the hair looks. It's perfect.
And when you were taking it, do you remember seeing that, or did you only see that after?
That was the last frame on the film, roll of film.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I was so lucky. So lucky. And then I've got others with, with more of the beach and her. But I think that one does it for me.
Fantastic.
I went to stay with a friend who had a new hotel in Kerala in South India, and it was on the edge of a lagoon. This is the lagoon. And one day there's this colourful boat full of people, and they were going to that sandbank. And I just seized the opportunity, took the photograph, because I love the way of the colours that they're wearing, just dripping into the water. See, the water's so still and clear.
And the reflections are great.
Yeah.
And so when you're out, are you on the lookout? Are you just always keeping your eye open for...
No, I don't keep my eye open. My eye is open. I see things and I want to seize them with my camera. I'm not terribly good at being creative, but on the other hand, maybe I am. I did a series of flowers where I stuck them on, I put them in vases and did all sorts of things. But so this is what I creatively do. Whereas something like the reflection, photograph of the reflection, that's something I've captured.
Yeah.
This is what I create. I love this gentle flower, and the colours are so beautiful.
And also, that's not particularly easy to do,
No.
to get the lighting right and all that detail.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And do you still? I like this. So this was this at your
I
the studio in
I had a
Battersea?
studio, yeah, studio in Battersea. And I was friends with a Guatemalan fashion designer called Juan Carlos. And he had all these glorious clothes. And he said, "Oh, Pattie, would you photograph them?" "Love to," I said. So here's one of his frocks. And the girl was just glorious. And I love this one. It's as if, I don't know, as if she's going to take off. She could be a fairy. I love that.
Do you prefer photographing people or things? We'll get onto this one in a second.
Yeah, that's difficult to answer. But I tell you what I'm interested in photographing is children. If I have a few children, say from the same family, there's always one who will understand what I'm trying to do and will look at me, look at the lens and try and work with me, where the others are just sitting around, you know, or doing or playing or whatever. It's normally just one who gets it. Interesting.
You're going to jump back to 66?
Robert Whitaker,
Robert
isn't
Whitaker, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. And you used this on the, was it the US cover or the UK? I never work out of your autobiography.
US.
US cover, yeah. I mean, it's such a 60 shot. I know the colours are a little bit off. I don't know if that was the film or the acid or a combination of.
I think maybe the shoes were a little more yellow.
Yeah.
No, it was more colourful. Definitely, I don't know where the colour's gone. Anyway, when George and I were living in this hideous house in Esher, Surrey, England, the house was so dull and so boring. It was on one level a bungalow, painted white. So we decided that we would do something about this, jazz it up a bit. So I got loads of cans of spray paint, and we just spray painted the whole thing.
And the house is gone now. Didn't they knock it down and rebuild
Can you
it or
imagine?
something?
Whoever bought it knocked it down and rebuilt it and asked me to sort of come and sign something that George used to live here. I said he didn't live here. Well, he did on that spot.
Yeah.
On this, you know. And anyway,
Unbelievable.
it's just a sales pitch.
I love this picture. It's you and Twiggy, because I remember when we were looking at this before, and you were saying, I think I mentioned earlier, about there wasn't really any competition amongst the models at the time, and it was all very supportive and friendly, and you're still friends.
Yes, we are, absolutely. This was a photograph taken by Justin de Villeneuve, who asked us if we would go to Italy with him for Italian Vogue. Of course we would. And it was such fun working with Twiggy because we both almost did the same makeup. And we had these exotic clothes to wear. It was fun.
And I seem to recall, was it you saying or he said there was no particular brief, he just set it up and presented it to Vogue, or was there any reason behind
Anna
it?
Piaggi was the director, I think, at the time. And she was there on the set with us. And, you know, she'd selected all the clothes. She'd brought them in. She was a bit wild, I think.
And this is one of Bailey's shots. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I know it's a bit cliched, but with his pictures, they really do stand out. Just the detail
I know.
in like the coat and
All
hair,
that curly hair. I think I must have been wearing another piece, a hair piece,
right.
you know, with all those curls.
And looking through your diaries, your work diaries, you did a lot of shoots with Bailey.
I did.
And
yeah.
I really like, I hope you don't mind me saying, but there's one entry where you said, nice Bailey, and another one where it was bad Bailey. Was that his mood on the day, or
Probably.
his attitude?
Probably, yeah. He could suddenly turn and be very irritating. Or he can be absolutely charming and loving. And you think he's in love with you. And then you realise, oh no, he only wants the shot.
But the pictures are great. I mean, all the pictures we got, I think we got 4 or 5 in the book and some of the magazine spreads. But this is another one. Again, one thing about his pictures of you is they're completely timeless. I mean, they're so. This
Yes.
could have been taken, you know, any time.
Yeah.
You couldn't pin a date on it, and I don't know how intentional that was. I mean, I know a lot of stuff with his plain backgrounds. You can't really pin a date on it.
Yes, yeah. No, I mean, even that makeup would be okay today.
Mm.
Yeah.
And did he do some of the Vogue covers that you did? Was one of those his? Can you remember? I think we've.
No, I can't remember. I don't know who took that.
I should know.
I hated that makeup. His,
But did someone else do that makeup?
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
So
makeup
for
artist.
Vogue, I think you said Condé Nast would give you
A
would
makeup
send it.
artist,
Yeah.
hair and makeup.
Hmm.
Definitely, definitely.
And were you okay with that, or did you prefer to do it yourself?
I prefer to do it myself. I mean, look at that. I think that's awful.
Mm.
Don't you? Or do you think it's very nice?
Well, it doesn't look
It's
like
just
you.
where the eyes go, the makeup goes out
Mm.
so far on the sides.
But I think one of the things that was to your advantage is that you can look so different in so many shots. I mean, a lot of the time we're looking through pictures and I have
Yes.
to double check, is that really you?
Yes, yeah, I know.
And,
Bit of a chameleon.
Yeah, and so I think, again, another cover.
This is the very first cover that Barry Latican did. I like that.
Mm. So you had 4 in total, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, didn't you say that?
I love that one. I think Justin did this one
Mm.
because that's Italian Vogue.
Didn't you say that after you made it to the cover of Vogue, you might think
I
about
might
quitting?
stop, yeah. But you know, it's like a drug. Once you've had one cover, you want more.
And you know, can you remember like when that hit the shelves? What that was like, seeing yourself on Vogue?
Unbelievably exciting. Yeah. Very
And
exciting.
did it? You know, how was that, for example, just like being on a Vogue shoot as opposed to, you know, any other magazine or?
I can't remember because sometimes I would have been doing a shoot and then they'd say, oh, let's do a cover as well.
Right.
So it wasn't always planned as a cover.
So they'd see how it turned out.
Yeah.
And then, right. Okay. Did you ever feel any pressure, or did it matter to you?
It was about, you know, in those studios, the buzz is all about the model. And, you know, let's make her look even better. Let's try this, let's try that. So all the vibes is all towards the model and making the whole shoot fabulous. So you're already in a fabulous environment.
And typically, like, how long would a shoot like that be? Would it be an all-day affair, or?
Sometimes all 3 hours.
Right. I love this picture. So this is you doing a bit of DIY in some tartan trousers and.
My Rupert Bear trousers.
And I do sort of picture you doing up the house dressed like that, or dressed fabulously every day. So this is at Friar Park,
Yes.
and which you and George moved in together. What year was that? 70?
I think 71.
Yeah, and it was in a terrible state.
Yeah, dreadful.
But you'd found
Grass
that.
was coming out of the floorboards in the dining room.
Wow. But had you been tasked with finding somewhere to live?
When I found Friar Park, this was fantastic. He could have 2 recording studios there.
And so by this time now, you're working less as a model.
Yeah, and George didn't really like me working because what would happen sometimes would be, you know, he might go on tour or be in the studio, which is fine, but if he was at home and I was working, then that was irritating, boring for him.
And how did you feel about kind of slowing down work-wise?
Well, I felt sort of I better had, slightly pressured into doing that.
And then did doing up the house become a full-time job?
Yeah, it did. So there was lovely, this is something to replace it with.
And still throughout you're taking pictures still?
Absolutely. And also learning to process and print.
All right. Did you have a dark room there, or did you? Yeah.
But then I went and I had some lessons for a couple of months in printing, darkroom techniques, as they call it. Yeah.
And did you, I mean, that's a whole other world of
Oh,
fun
yeah.
and pain.
Oh, it's wonderful. Have you ever done it?
I've never done it myself. No,
Oh, it's great.
I've watched other people do it many times. So I haven't got the patience.
No, but it's gripping.
Yeah.
Just can't wait. Try this photograph again. It could be so much better. And try and try and try. I would be in my dark room till after midnight, still trying for the perfect photograph, the perfect print.
Now, knowing how you're going to print it, would that change how you took a picture? Were you thinking that
No,
far
different.
ahead?
No, I didn't. They were almost. I saw it as a completion of being a photographer, putting the film into the camera, taking the photographs, taking the film out in a dark situation, and then processing the film and then printing whichever ones I like. Then I thought, that's it. I've done the whole thing, as opposed to just taking the photographs. To go back to your first question, no, I didn't. I would take the photographs and sometimes I'd go, hold my breath. I've got it. I've got a great photo. And then in the darkroom, I could play and it would come out whether it was a good photo or not.
Now, this is, you have to remind me where this is, I should know.
This is George in South India.
That's right.
We'd been meditating for 2 months in the Himalayas, and then afterwards, instead of going straight back to London, we decided to meet up with Ravi Shankar and go to South India, where George was he calmed down because he was, I think, getting really a little nervous about going back to London, where he knew Paul and John had started their new company called Apple. And now, you see, without a manager, they really had to look after themselves, unless somebody found someone who could be a manager.
And he wasn't ready for that?
No.
But he's looking quite mellow.
Yeah.
Now Polaroids. You've got hundreds of Polaroids.
Yes.
When did you get your... Is this around the time everyone was getting Polaroid cameras,
Yeah,
like mass market ones?
What was it, 73-ish? And so my Polaroid camera was absolutely fantastic. My sister and I went back to Kenya, East Africa, where we grew up. Thought we'd just go and see how it's changed. And I had my Polaroid camera with me. And we went one day to fill up the Jeep with some petrol. And these sort of young kind of boys, Maasai boys, were putting petrol in the thing. And I thought, can I take your picture? And they were, no, they sort of freaked out. And I said, come on, very nice. And so I took it with the Polaroid. And then the photo came out, and it's just completely white. And I said, watch this. White man's magic. And they were laughing their heads off. And then they wanted the pictures. So I had to take a few and give them to them. But then I didn't have one myself.
You can see there's also a Polaroid on the table. So were you just... you must have got through a lot of film.
Yeah, it was such fun. So this is in Eric's house. And one day, Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker decided to visit. And, they're sort of used to me taking photographs. And then they made a meal of it, just sort of thought they'd dress up like that. I think that's an upside-down saucepan on Eric's head with a handle at the back.
Are the eyes cut out, or is that like something over his eyes? Because it's so...
yeah, they're like mirrored, aren't they?
It does look... It could be a big point, but it also...
I think they're probably mirrored lenses.
And do you know something I hadn't noticed before?
What?
Is, Jack and Ginger have got some cool boots on, and Eric's got some very old man slippers going
Isn't that funny?
And so, did you? Were you using Polaroid almost like a visual diary, just documenting everything that was going on?
I wasn't aware of documenting. I just liked capturing, and it was fun to take Polaroids because everyone could see them immediately.
Yeah. And this is one of your. Actually, the more I look at these,
this was not a Polaroid. This was a photograph.
But the more we look at these, your pictures, you realise just how quite well known many of them are. What was going on here?
Eric had just finished a gig, and I had joined him recently to be on tour with him, and he got back to our hotel room and have a shower, and when he came out, he sort of just sat there, and I noticed this ghastly picture hanging on the wall in the hotel room, with one of the figures wearing a red, the same colour as that sofa, and I just saw the two reds, 1, 2, 3 reds. And then with Eric just incidentally there. I like the idea that he's incidental because there's the weirdness going on. Somebody said they thought it was a window.
Oh God, yeah, I hadn't noticed that before. But that's the great thing about a picture is you can always see something different.
Yes, yes.
You know.
So I like Eric being to one side, you see, and so he's not the main subject. You realise, I'm looking at it, oh, there's Eric. You know, it's like an afterthought. So there's two things going on. Mad sort of colours and art scene in a hotel room, and then, oh, there's Eric. So I had to say to Bailey, now look, all these years later, can I take a photo of you? Take your clothes off. Of course, he's not going to do that.
Maybe you weren't persistent enough.
Maybe, yeah.
He'd probably do it now, though.
Yeah, oh, don't. So he collected these masks, these African masks.
Now, had you set this up to, like, he wasn't photographing you and you turned around? You
I phoned him and said, Bailey, please, can I take a photo of you? You've taken so many of me, now it's my turn.
And he agreed?
Yes.
And was he easy?
Yes, he was, actually. He tried to tell me what to do. You know, of course he would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't help himself. Now this is quite interesting. So Harper's Bazaar had, did they have Taylor Swift guest edit or something? What's the...
They wanted her to interview me,
right.
Come to London and interview me, and do a photo shoot. And here's the photo shoot. And
were you aware of who she was at the time?
No, well, she wrote me this long letter, Love Taylor Swift, and I didn't really know who she was. I thought, how sweet that she wants to interview me. And then I found out that she was actually very well known.
And how was the shoot?
It was great fun. It was lovely, really nice. Really nice.
I think we've got a bit behind the scenes shot as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you go to the shows at Wembley?
Yes.
How was it?
Oh, it was unbelievable. She's super, super in control, in command, and just does it so beautifully.
And what was it like, you know, when I looked at this picture earlier, it made me laugh, just that you've sort of basically always been in the middle of something fabulous going on. Have you been aware of that, or is it just kind of normal? It seemed very normal.
My life.
I remember, I think last year you said, you asked me if I'd seen the Elvis movie, and I said no. You said, I watched it last night, and then I remembered that I'd met Elvis twice. And I was like, how could you only remember meeting Elvis after you saw a film? But it does seem that, you know, another thing you said which just really stuck with me when we were doing the book was that you were just kind of doing your thing, you know, hanging out with friends, but your friends happened to be the Beatles and people like that. So every day kind of, and there's so many things you say that actually I think really stick with me, like that when during the whole Beatle period you kind of never knew what day it was. It was just one day led into a next. And
well, yeah, I describe it as never having a weekend. There was no such thing as a weekend. It was just one day sliding into another.
And now when you look back at pictures of you out from the time, or picture you've taken at the time, does it bring you back to that point, or?
Sometimes it does, and sometimes I have no recollection at all.
And is it weird to have like so much of your life documented.
Yeah,
And-
it is.
and-
Things that I don't even know
Yeah.
about, don't remember.
Well, like these pictures, I'll send them to you by Nancy Sandys Walker. There's tons of them. It's like I don't know how many times she shot you, but it's lots of different setups. But there's like half a book's worth just of
Wow,
by one
really?
photographer. Yeah, there's loads, but it's kind of yeah. I mean, it must be quite strange to just
It is. Sometimes people send me photographs to sign and send back to them. Often I've never seen these pictures before. Where do they get them from?
yeah.
Anyway, there's a Instagram site. One's called Daily Pattie Boyd, and it's not me. And when I was in New York signing my books, this black girl came up. You know, she's in the line. She said, "You won't believe who I am." And I said, "No, who are you?" Daily Pattie Boyd. No, you're not.
Was she dressed like you?
No, but she was just gorgeous, and she was laughing. And I said, "How on earth do you find these photos?" Pinterest, she said.
Wow. And in fact, she's posted a bunch of the new pictures there. Do you? I know we've done some book events where the front row has been people dressed like you from a particular time.
Yes.
How do you find that? Is it?
I find it amusing.
I mean, I know that a lot of the the feedback we got from people, it was young girls wanting to know how you do your makeup or how you did your hair,
Yeah.
or not less interested than of the fuss around you and more about you and your style and your look.
Yeah.
And so how much of that, because it's funny, I wanted to jump from that early picture of you with the John French sort of girls to you, the Robert Whitaker picture of you in all the sort of psychedelic glory. That's a very short period of time from that picture to the next, and it's like a whole new world, from black and white to colour, and from long skirts to
Yes.
short skirts.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. So the John French photograph, you see, it was taken, you know, John French was really the old school, and most of the models were so much older than me. So I was just on the periphery, ready to jump off into the 60s, which in fact, 64-ish, I think. So it was just, yeah, just straddled those two periods
And-
for a minute, and then it was the 60s.
and did it feel different?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, the John French was very, very grown up. I mean, I was clearly the newbie on the block.
And how would that be different? Like, so with someone like Bailey, I mean, you basically worked with Duffy, Bailey, Barry Latican, Norman Parkinson, every major photographer at the time. Were there lots of differences between photographers?
Well, all those guys you've mentioned, I think at the time when I first started, they were assistants to John French.
Right.
They all were assistants.
Yeah.
And then they all broke away and became photographers in their own right.
Yeah.
It all sort of happened at the same time, I think.
And it's quite incredible that, you know, for so many years things have been quite rigid in fashion and photography, and then suddenly it was like the Wild West where anything goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Exciting.
It was. Yeah. It was. And to feel part of all that too.
And you can see more, read more in this lovely book from Real Art Press. And I believe signed copies are available on the Real Art Press website, and perhaps yours. And prints are available on your site.
Yes, if
believe.
anybody wants.
Yeah. And you can check us out on Instagram and Pattie. And do we need to add anything? We haven't
No.
insulted anyone. Normally, we insult at least one person.
What is that hat you're wearing, Dave?
It's not meant to be me. Right, time to go. Thank you very much, Pattie.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Bye.